At 6:47 on 12 October 1983, Anna Harper kissed her children goodbye, told her husband she had an early meeting, and left their Virginia home carrying only her purse and a briefcase. 3 days later, her car was found in long-term parking at Dallas International Airport with keys in the ignition. Anna Harper, devoted mother, PTA volunteer, and defense contractor employee, had vanished. Unknown to anyone at the time, she had spent nearly a decade living a double life. By the time investigators began to piece together the truth, she was thousands of miles away in Moscow, sitting in a KGB debriefing room, speaking flawless Russian. Her real identity, revealed in declassified KGB records, was Yelena Mikhailivna Sokolova, born in 1947 in Minsk to a family with strong party ties. Identified early as a promising intelligence candidate, she was intelligent, adaptable, and able to blend in seamlessly. Instructors described her as unremarkable in the best way, able to adjust her personality to any role. She spoke English fluently with minimal accent, and by 1973, she had a new identity, fabricated history, and a mission to enter the United States under the name Anna Kowalik. The KGB provided her with a Polish passport, academic records from the University of Warsaw, and a story of fleeing Eastern Europe for education in the West. She arrived in New York City in 1974, attending graduate school in New Jersey, blending into campus life, working part-time at a library, and living on a laundered stipend. In 1975, she met David Harper, an engineer working for a defense contractor, and they married in April 1976. The marriage, apart from providing her cover, gave her proximity to defense industry information. By 1977, they had settled in Milan, Virginia, and Anna had children, Emily and Michael. She worked at the same defense contractor as David, obtaining a security clearance and access to classified, though not top-secret, information. She passed intelligence to Moscow through memorized reports, coded summaries, and dead drops, maintaining a steady flow for years. At home, she lived a suburban routine, school events, birthday parties, and household management, while constantly evaluating interactions for risk. The strain of living a double life was immense, intensified by Cold War tensions, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and a more aggressive U.S. foreign policy under Reagan. In 1982, she was tasked with obtaining detailed information on a NATO communications encryption project. Using a small camera and low-tech methods, she passed critical documents to her handlers. In spring 1983, a minor mistake with a photocopied document triggered an audit. Her name appeared in the review, drawing attention from FBI counterintelligence agent Richard Callahan, who noticed inconsistencies in her background. By summer, the FBI opened a full investigation, monitoring her movements and communications. In September, a brush pass with a Soviet officer confirmed suspicions. The KGB issued an emergency signal. Her cover was blown. On 12 October 1983, Anna prepared her children for school, left breakfast for David, kissed Emily and Michael goodbye, and departed with a briefcase containing cash and false documents. She abandoned her car at Dallas International Airport and began a flight path likely through Mexico City and Havana to Moscow, where she was debriefed. David discovered her disappearance that evening, reported it to police, and the FBI concluded he had been an unwitting victim. Anna Harper, or Yelena Sokolova, vanished from public view, leaving lasting emotional voids and highlighting vulnerabilities in U.S. security procedures and the human cost of deep cover espionage. By the time Anna Harper arrived in Moscow, she had already vanished from every trace in Virginia, leaving her husband and children stunned and desperate for answers. Her transition from suburban mother to Soviet intelligence asset was complete, and yet the journey that brought her here was only the beginning of a life lived in shadows and secrecy. In the safe house, Anna was debriefed by KGB officers who meticulously questioned her about every detail she had observed during her years in America. She described her access to technical documents at advanced systems technologies meetings she had attended with her husband and colleagues, casual conversations that revealed project timelines and system capabilities. Every small observation mattered, and her ability to recall seemingly mundane details impressed her handlers. The KGB valued accuracy over drama, and Anna understood that minor errors could have consequences far beyond the safe house walls. The transition from life in Virginia to life in Moscow was jarring. The pace was different, the sounds harsher, and the surveillance on her movements strict. She was provided with a modest apartment to maintain the appearance of normality, yet remained under the watchful eyes of her new supervisors. For someone who had spent nearly a decade living a dual life blending into the American suburb, the routines of Soviet bureaucracy were both comforting and constraining. She was no longer balancing a family and a career she had only ever pretended to lead in Virginia. Her every action, every word spoken even in casual conversation, was scrutinized, evaluated, and recorded. She was now fully under the control of the organization she had served for years, and the illusion of personal choice was gone. While in Moscow, Anna reflected on the life she had left behind. She had not contacted David or the children, nor had she intended to. The psychological toll of leaving them was secondary to the operational imperative of survival. For years, she had compartmentalized her existence, maintaining a layer of emotional detachment necessary for a double life, but the sudden severance of all ties created an emotional vacuum. Memories of Emily reading bedtime stories and Michael's first steps became distant, yet persistent reminders of what had been sacrificed. The cognitive dissonance between loyalty to her country and the attachment to her family she had never fully acknowledged created internal tension that few outside intelligence circles could comprehend. During debriefings, Anna provided a detailed timeline of the intelligence she had transmitted, the methods she had used, and the contacts she had maintained. The KGB officers praised her ability to maintain consistency under scrutiny and commended the thoroughness of her reporting. While the documents she had relayed were not world-shattering, they represented a reliable stream of intelligence that offered insights into American communication systems, project timelines, and technological gaps. Anna's work exemplified the long-term strategy of the Soviets during the Cold War, emphasizing patience, gradual infiltration, and disciplined reporting over dramatic but risky operations. She had learned to observe and remember every detail, and her handlers relied on her methodical approach. In parallel, intelligence analysts in the United States continued to track the fallout of her disappearance. David Harper struggled to comprehend the revelation that his wife had been living a lie. The FBI concluded he had been an unwitting participant in a complex espionage operation and offered him guidance and protection, yet the emotional devastation could not be mitigated by procedural assurances. Emily and Michael were left to grapple with confusion and absence, the latter compounded by the inability of law enforcement to provide closure. Psychological experts note that children in such situations often internalize guilt or misdirected responsibility, and the Harper children were no exception. They grew up with an incomplete understanding of their mother's identity and actions, forming a narrative informed by both absence and secrecy. In Moscow, Anna was assigned new responsibilities and began undergoing additional training. She learned advanced techniques for signal intelligence, coded communication, and document concealment. Although her prior experience in America provided practical knowledge of Western life, the KGB now sought to expand her skill set for future operations. Exercises involved memorization of complex technical schematics, message encoding under time constraints, and practicing the subtle psychological manipulations necessary for handling assets abroad. This training reinforced the mindset of vigilance and caution that had defined her American years, but intensified the stress by removing the familiar domestic routines she had previously used to anchor her identity. The KGB also integrated Anna into social circles designed to maintain her cover and allow observation of potential Western contacts. These gatherings included diplomats, academics, and other intelligence operatives, operating under the guise of ordinary professional life. She learned to navigate conversations to extract information without revealing personal knowledge, a skill that mirrored her previous life in Virginia, but now carried immediate operational consequences. Any lapse could compromise current or future missions. Despite the intense surveillance and structured routines, Anna adapted quickly, drawing on her training and experience as a field operative to maintain composure and efficiency. Meanwhile, the United States intelligence community examined the systemic gaps exposed by her operation. The FBI, CIA, and Department of Defense reviewed background check processes for security clearances, analyzed how forged documents and meticulously constructed identities had evaded scrutiny, and evaluated procedures for monitoring access to sensitive information. Lessons from Anna Harper's case informed policy changes, including more thorough verification of academic records, cross-referencing international immigration documentation, and improved coordination between counterintelligence units. Her disappearance highlighted the necessity for vigilance not only in monitoring suspected operatives, but in understanding the subtle long-term methods employed by foreign intelligence services. Back in Virginia, David Harper began the painstaking process of rebuilding his life. He moved to another state, sought therapy, and attempted to provide stability for his children. Each milestone in Emily and Michael's lives was marked by the absence of their mother. The emotional weight of betrayal and abandonment lingered, shaping their perceptions of trust and personal relationships. Emily developed a guarded disposition, while Michael, having few early memories, experienced a different kind of void, an invisible absence that shaped identity through questions unanswered and experiences unshared. The Harper family story became intertwined with larger Cold War narratives, yet it remained intensely personal, defined by everyday routines, disrupted by extraordinary deception. Anna's life in Moscow remained isolated from her family and the world she had known. She adapted to living under strict supervision and in a society markedly different from the one she had infiltrated. She maintained contact with her handlers and other operatives through controlled channels, but the human connection she had once experienced as a mother and wife was gone. The routine of intelligence work, the memorization of technical details, the discipline required to encode and relay information became her primary structure. While the work was familiar in its procedural demands, the emotional cost was immense. Loneliness, stress, and the perpetual awareness of what had been left behind shaped her daily experience and reinforced the compartmentalization that had defined her career. In reviewing the Harper case, intelligence historians note that Anna's actions exemplified a particular class of long-term espionage operations characteristic of the Soviet approach during the Cold War. Operatives like Anna were not flashy agents executing dramatic missions, but patient, methodical, and psychologically resilient individuals willing to sustain deception over extended periods. The operational emphasis was on embedding assets deeply within target societies, cultivating relationships, gaining access to incremental intelligence, and maintaining cover for years or even decades. This approach required exceptional discipline, the ability to suppress emotional impulses, and a clear prioritization of organizational objectives over personal considerations. The human consequences of such operations extended far beyond the operative. Families left behind confronted psychological trauma, betrayal, and the disruption of ordinary life. Communities that had trusted the operative, neighbors, colleagues, and social networks, were destabilized by the revelation that one of their own had been a foreign agent. Anna's story illustrates the interplay between global geopolitical strategies and intensely personal ramifications, highlighting the intersection of ideology, duty, and human relationships under the extreme pressures of intelligence work. The balance of professional accomplishment and personal loss defined Anna's existence in Moscow. She continued to provide intelligence reports meticulously while adapting to new roles and responsibilities assigned by her handlers. Each completed task reinforced her value to the organization while simultaneously reminding her of the family and life left behind. The KGB valued obedience, skill, and reliability over sentiment, and in that environment, personal history was irrelevant, unless it could be leveraged operationally. Anna's ability to compartmentalize her experiences allowed her to continue functioning effectively, despite the emotional burden imposed by her previous life in America. Anna's disappearance remained a cautionary tale within the intelligence community. While her operational success was measured in the steady flow of intelligence and the preservation of cover for nearly a decade, her human cost was immeasurable. Analysts studying the case emphasize that espionage is rarely the work of lone figures executing brief, spectacular missions. It is often a sustained endeavor requiring endurance, cognitive precision, and the psychological management of deception. Anna Harper's life and choices underscore the broader reality that intelligence operations are as much about patience, resilience, and human psychology as they are about strategy, technology, or tactical brilliance. Her story resonates as a narrative about the Cold War lived in suburban homes, corporate offices, and classrooms rather than battlefields. It demonstrates how global conflict can infiltrate everyday life and shows the extraordinary measures taken by states to gain advantage through human intelligence. The meticulous orchestration of identity, relationships, and access highlights both the ingenuity of long-term espionage and the profound costs of living under sustained deception. The ripple effects extend beyond her immediate family to communities, organizations, and the broader understanding of vulnerabilities in security protocols. By late 1983, Anna Harper, or Yelena Sokolova as the KGB knew her, was fully embedded in Moscow's intelligence network. Her mission had shifted from long-term observation in the United States to active analysis and reporting. The KGB relied on her first-hand experience living in America to interpret patterns in defense projects, communication technologies, and industry trends. Every conversation, every detail she had memorized while working at Advanced Systems Technologies now served a new purpose. She would spend hours in the safe house cross-referencing the technical specifications she had recalled, analyzing the strategic implications, and preparing coded reports for transmission. Each report was scrutinized for accuracy and completeness before it was sent to Moscow headquarters, a meticulous process that reinforced both her value to the organization and her isolation from the life she had known. In her new routine, Anna had no domestic obligations, no children to care for, no husband to interact with, and no suburban facade to maintain. Her identity as a mother and wife was a memory she carried internally, one she could not voice. The separation from her family was total and immediate. Her training, however, allowed her to maintain composure. The KGB emphasized discipline, and she followed their methods precisely. She used dead drops in discrete locations, transmitted messages through coded telegrams and innocuous correspondence, and participated in meetings under strict operational security. Every movement was calculated. Every interaction was a performance, yet this time the stakes were higher because there were no American routines to anchor her cover, only the constant awareness of potential surveillance and the consequences of mistakes. Meanwhile, David Harper and the children remained in Virginia, struggling to process the sudden disappearance. David cooperated with the FBI, answering questions, submitting to interviews, and allowing investigators to search his home. Yet the emotional devastation was beyond procedural remedies. Emily and Michael faced a confusing reality, grappling with the knowledge that their mother had not simply left, but had been living a completely different life. They were told little and understood less. Childhood memories of bedtime stories, school events, and birthday parties were now intertwined with an unanswerable question. Why had she left? Over the years, the absence of their mother shaped their emotional development, influencing relationships, trust, and the way they perceived the world. In Moscow, Anna was occasionally reminded of the family she had abandoned. Internal evaluations required her to reflect on her time in America and assess the potential long-term intelligence value of her observations. These exercises, though operational in nature, triggered fragments of memory. Emily's laughter, Michael's curiosity, David's quiet demeanor. Her ability to compartmentalize was tested constantly. The KGB encouraged detachment, framing emotion as a potential liability, and Anna adapted. She focused on her assignments, delivering reports on communications encryption systems, project budgets, and industry personnel, while suppressing personal reflections. The broader Cold War context amplified the importance of her work. In 1983, tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union were escalating rapidly. Military technology, defense contracts, and communications infrastructure were all viewed as critical intelligence priorities. Anna's contributions, while not revolutionary, offered consistent and credible insights into American capabilities and organizational practices. The KGB valued her meticulousness, reliability, and operational discretion, and she became a model operative for long-term embedding, an example cited in internal assessments of human intelligence effectiveness. Even within Moscow, Anna's existence remained a blend of operational rigor and personal isolation. Her routines were rigid, controlled, and highly structured. She would rise, review documents, meet with handlers, encode information, and sleep under the strict supervision required for security. Social interaction was limited to other operatives and carefully monitored contacts. Outside of work, she had little freedom. Any personal exploration risked exposure. She had relinquished autonomy, personal relationships, and freedom of choice entirely. The cost of sustained deception was clear. The life she had lived in America, full of small joys and ordinary routines, existed only as memory, a private layer of identity inaccessible to anyone else. Anna Harper's experience in Moscow underscores the psychological complexity of long-term espionage. Her skill at observation, recall, and discretion was matched by the toll exacted by prolonged isolation and emotional detachment. Each report she produced carried operational value and personal weight. While she succeeded in providing intelligence, she also sustained a life lived almost entirely in shadow, one where personal attachments became liabilities and professional competence became a survival mechanism. The tension between duty and human instinct, ideology and affection, past and present, defined her existence and demonstrated the enduring cost of deep cover operations. By 1984, Anna Harper had fully adapted to her life in Moscow. Her days were consumed with analyzing intelligence gathered from her years in the United States and preparing detailed reports for her handlers. Each memo, encoded message, and briefing session reinforced her value to the KGB. The precision of her recollections from advanced systems technologies impressed her superiors, and she was frequently called upon to clarify technical details or provide insight into American defense practices. While the work was familiar in its methodology, the environment was harsher, more scrutinized, and the consequences of error far more immediate than in the suburban life she had left behind. Although her professional responsibilities were clear, the psychological strain remained constant. She had abandoned her husband, David, and her children, Emily and Michael, leaving them behind without explanation. Memories of their laughter, school activities, and small family rituals intruded during quiet moments, reminders of the personal cost of her mission. The KGB's training had prepared her to compartmentalize, yet these memories persisted, creating a tension between operational duty and human emotion. Each day, she reminded herself that exposure or failure could endanger not only herself, but the broader network she had served for nearly a decade. In Moscow, Anna's interactions were limited to fellow operatives and assigned contacts. Meetings were brief, precise, and often conducted under the guise of mundane tasks to avoid drawing attention. She became an expert in subtle observation, noting patterns, behaviors, and vulnerabilities that could inform future missions. Her meticulous nature, cultivated during years of careful observation in Virginia, proved invaluable in her current role. While her life lacked warmth or personal freedom, it provided clarity of purpose and a singular focus. Ensure the intelligence she carried from America reached her handlers without compromise. Meanwhile, the legacy of her disappearance continued to ripple in Virginia. David Harper remained in shock and grief, struggling to reconcile the woman he had loved with the spy she had been. Emily and Michael grew older without their mother, each milestone marked by absence and unanswered questions. The FBI's investigation confirmed that Anna had operated independently, leaving David unwittingly entangled in espionage, yet the emotional and psychological aftermath was far-reaching. Her disappearance had not only altered her family's lives, but also exposed systemic vulnerabilities within American counterintelligence protocols. Anna Harper's existence in Moscow became a study in discipline and detachment. Every day she executed her mission flawlessly, every action measured, every memory suppressed. Her life, once defined by domestic normality, had transformed into one dictated entirely by operational necessity. In the quiet moments between assignments, the echoes of her former life remained, a persistent reminder of the cost of deception, the tension between ideology and human connection, and the profound consequences of a choice made on October 12, 1983, at 6:47 in Virginia. By 1985, Anna Harper had established herself as a reliable asset within the KGB network. Her daily routine involved reviewing intelligence, preparing reports, and attending briefings where every detail from her years in America was scrutinized for accuracy. Her ability to recall technical specifications, project timelines, and defense industry protocols impressed her handlers. They valued her disciplined approach and the subtlety with which she could convey sensitive information. While the intelligence she provided did not radically shift global power balances, it offered a consistent stream of insights into American operations, communication systems, and potential vulnerabilities. Her meticulous reports became part of a larger mosaic that informed Soviet strategic planning. Life in Moscow was rigid and isolated. Anna's interactions were limited to fellow operatives, handlers, and carefully monitored contacts. There were no personal relationships, no casual friendships, and no family connections to anchor her emotionally. Every movement, every conversation, and even her downtime was controlled and observed. The psychological burden of this existence was heavy. Memories of her husband David and her children Emily and Michael remained vivid, yet she could neither acknowledge them openly nor allow them to influence her work. Each recollection was compartmentalized, filed away in the recesses of her mind, accessible only in private moments of reflection. Meanwhile, the United States continued to grapple with the aftermath of her disappearance. David Harper navigated the complex emotional terrain of betrayal and loss. Emily and Michael faced the long-term consequences of growing up without a mother, shaping their understanding of trust and family. The FBI continued to analyze the gaps in security protocols that had allowed Anna to infiltrate American society undetected. Background checks, immigration verification, and clearance procedures were revised in response to lessons learned from her operation. Her case became an example in counterintelligence training, illustrating the subtle, patient, and methodical nature of long-term espionage operations. In Moscow, Anna was occasionally reassigned to more specialized tasks. She reviewed communications encryption methods, assisted in interpreting technical documents, and trained newer operatives in observational techniques. Her experience living undercover in the United States provided practical insight that no textbook or classroom could replicate. The KGB leveraged her knowledge not only for intelligence collection, but also for shaping the training of future assets. She became a living example of what could be accomplished with discipline, patience, and the ability to compartmentalize an entire life for the sake of a mission. Anna Harper's existence remained defined by routine and operational necessity. Each day was a careful balance of executing her assignments while suppressing the human instincts that had once connected her to a family and a home. The cost of this sustained deception was profound, yet she remained committed to the mission she had been trained for, a testament to the psychological conditioning, ideology, and strategic purpose that had guided her life since the early 1970s. By 1986, Anna Harper's role in the KGB had expanded to include training and mentorship of junior operatives. Her first-hand experience in the United States made her insights invaluable. She could illustrate the subtleties of blending in, the nuances of American social interactions, and the art of observing without being observed. Her reports became more sophisticated, integrating analysis of project timelines, defense protocols, and patterns in workplace behaviors. While still not classified at the highest levels, this intelligence provided Soviet analysts with a clearer picture of American capabilities and organizational culture. Despite her operational success, the psychological toll persisted. Isolation remained total, and memories of David and the children continued to surface unbidden. The KGB emphasized detachment as a strength, but human instincts did not disappear. Anna occasionally questioned the personal cost of her work. She had abandoned a family she once loved, yet she could not reverse the past. Every decision made in 12 October 1983 now carried echoes across years and continents. Back in Virginia, David Harper's life had settled into a quiet routine, yet the absence of answers lingered. Emily and Michael grew older, their understanding of family and trust forever altered. Therapy, friendships, and career milestones could not fully fill the void left by their mother's disappearance. The FBI continued to track potential contacts and intelligence networks connected to Anna, but Moscow remained an unreachable fortress. Her case became a reference point in counterintelligence circles, demonstrating the complexity of long-term infiltration and the subtlety required to detect it. Anna's daily life in Moscow was disciplined and solitary. She conducted field research, coded reports, and attended meetings in secured locations. Every action was deliberate, precise, and measured against the possibility of surveillance or compromise. Each day she maintained her operational rigor while suppressing the remnants of a domestic life that had once defined her identity. Her story highlighted the duality of espionage, the outward control, the internal sacrifice, and the hidden personal consequences that could never be fully reconciled. Her intelligence work was effective, but it came at the cost of a human connection she would never regain. By 1987, Anna Harper had become a model operative within the KGB. Her ability to recall technical data and relay it accurately had established her reputation for reliability. She participated in complex analyses of American defense programs, assessing project vulnerabilities, timelines, and personnel assignments. Every insight, no matter how minor it seemed, was cataloged and transmitted using secure channels. Her attention to detail and disciplined workflow made her a critical asset. Life in Moscow remained isolated. Operatives rarely encountered individuals outside the intelligence network. Social interactions were restricted to controlled environments, reinforcing the sense of detachment that defined her existence. Memories of her family persisted, often unbidden, reminding her of the choices made in 12 October 1983 at 6:47. Every day brought both professional purpose and personal sacrifice. Meanwhile, in Virginia, David Harper continued to rebuild a semblance of normal life. Emily and Michael navigated adolescence with the knowledge that their mother had chosen espionage over family. The emotional consequences were subtle but profound, affecting trust, relationships, and understanding of loyalty. The FBI maintained records of Anna's activities, but had no means to bring closure to the family or recover her presence. Anna's KGB work intensified with each passing year. She coordinated small intelligence operations, trained junior agents, and provided detailed briefings on U.S. technological trends. Her analysis influenced operational decisions, shaping the way her superiors approached human intelligence gathering in North America. The work was routine yet critical, emphasizing patience, precision, and discretion. Her life exemplified the sacrifices demanded by deep-cover espionage, decades of isolation, total devotion to a mission, and the permanent severing of personal connections. Even as her contributions shaped strategic decisions, the human cost remained irreparable. By 1988, Anna Harper's role within the KGB had solidified further. Her operational responsibilities included monitoring trends in U.S. military communications, analyzing encryption technologies, and reviewing intelligence gathered by other operatives in the field. Her reports were consistently thorough, providing both strategic insight and practical recommendations. Moscow's environment remained strictly controlled, every assignment meticulously planned to avoid risk of exposure. The personal cost continued to weigh heavily. Anna had no social life outside the network, no domestic routines to anchor her identity, and no connection to the family she had abandoned. Each day was marked by procedural efficiency and emotional suppression. Memories of Emily and Michael, of birthday parties, school events, and ordinary life in Virginia surfaced sporadically, often triggered by seemingly insignificant stimuli. These recollections reinforced both the isolation of her existence and the irrevocability of the decision she had made on the 12th of October, 1983. David Harper's efforts to rebuild a life continued quietly. He focused on raising Emily and Michael, shielding them from the complexities of espionage, while maintaining cooperation with ongoing FBI inquiries. Although Anna's case became a classic example in counterintelligence training, the emotional consequences remained unresolved. Her family's lives had been permanently altered, a human ripple effect of her deep cover operations. Within Moscow, Anna's efficiency and discipline were acknowledged by her handlers. She became a model for procedural rigor, embodying the principles of observation, memory, and operational secrecy. Every day she maintained focus, measured risk, and ensured the intelligence she provided continued to be both relevant and actionable. Anna Harper's story remained one of contrasts: operational success alongside personal loss, professional respect amid emotional isolation, and the enduring consequences of a single decision that had reshaped multiple lives. By 1989, Anna Harper had reached a point of both mastery and routine in her intelligence work. Her reports combined first-hand observations from America with analytical interpretations of ongoing technological developments. She regularly briefed senior officers on trends in defense communications, encryption methods, and contractor practices. Her memory and attention to detail were unparalleled, and her role had become critical to operational planning. Her personal existence remained starkly isolated. Anna had no personal freedoms outside her assignments. Memories of David, Emily, and Michael continued to intrude, reminders of the family and life she had forsaken. The choice made in 12 October 1983 at 6:47 had irrevocably severed those bonds. Even as she maintained professional excellence, the cost of deep cover remained deeply human: loneliness, detachment, and emotional burden. Back in Virginia, Emily and Michael were navigating adulthood with the legacy of their mother's absence. David Harper remained a figure of quiet resilience, raising his children while grappling with betrayal and loss. Anna's story continued to serve as a cautionary example within the FBI and counterintelligence circles, highlighting the challenges of identifying long-term operatives. Anna's routine in Moscow remained precise and disciplined. She executed daily assignments, trained operatives, and ensured that the intelligence she provided remained consistent and actionable. Each day reinforced the duality of her existence: operational success paired with personal isolation. Her life was one of continuous performance, defined by meticulous planning, precision, and the unrelenting demands of espionage. By 1990, Anna Harper had become a symbol of disciplined, long-term espionage. Her expertise in analyzing technical intelligence and observing patterns in American defense projects earned her recognition within the KGB. She continued to mentor new operatives, reinforcing techniques she had honed during her years undercover in the United States. Operationally, she remained meticulous, ensuring that every report and brief was accurate, actionable, and secure. Despite her professional success, her life was defined by solitude. Memories of David, Emily, and Michael persisted, reminders of a domestic life permanently lost. The emotional consequences of the decision she made on October 12, 1983, at 6:47 remained present, an invisible weight she carried daily. Each moment of reflection reinforced the human cost of espionage, a stark contrast to the calculated efficiency of her professional persona. David Harper and the children continued their lives in Virginia, shaped by absence and uncertainty. Emily and Michael grew into adults with complex feelings about their mother, learning to navigate trust, relationships, and identity without her guidance. David lived quietly, never remarrying, preserving a family narrative fractured by deception. Anna's story underscored the duality of deep cover operations, professional accomplishment and personal sacrifice, ideological commitment and emotional severance, operational effectiveness and human cost. She had maintained cover for nearly a decade, yet the personal consequences of that choice endured, a reminder of the profound complexity and moral ambiguity inherent in the shadowy world of espionage. Her life, hidden from public view, continued under the gaze of the KGB, a testament to discipline, secrecy, and the enduring consequences of a single fateful decision. If you were captivated by Anna Harper's story and want to uncover more shocking true tales of espionage, deception, and Cold War secrets, make sure to subscribe now, hit the notification bell, and share this video with anyone who loves real-life spy stories. Don't miss our upcoming deep dives into history's most extraordinary covert operations. And comment below with your thoughts. Would you have noticed a spy living right next door?